Okay, guys, I welcome. Let me on my video. All right, so I want to use this opportunity to welcome all of us again on today's health and safety interactive workshop. So Safeoclock is a platform that we have built over the months where we gather health and safety professionals on weekly basis, and we discuss a certain topic chosen for the week. And the aim for this platform is to ensure that we enlighten ourselves, educate ourselves, and ask relevant questions, answer the questions by ourselves, and improve our knowledge. So that is the main reason why we choose to gather ourselves virtually under the auspices of Safeoclock. So if you are joining us for the first time today, you are highly welcome, and we aim to hear from you. So our pattern of modus of operandi is we bring a short presentation led by any of us. Any of us can choose to lead a presentation on that topic. And after that presentation, then we give room for each person to make contributions and discuss their experience, share their knowledge, and ask questions where required. So that is how we operate. And the forum lasts for just 1 hour from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. every Thursday. So that is how we operate in case you are joining us for the very first time. So you are highly welcome.
So let's give a few minutes for maybe another 3 minutes to see.
Another 3 minutes. By 6:10, we can kick off.
I just want us to proceed why we go slowly and expect more people to join. So I still remember my humble self, Stephen Francis, an active member of this professional discussion. As the topic is being displayed, we could see that we're talking about display screen equipment safety. For most of us who are not new in the profession, we know what the display screen equipment is all about. Okay, and most especially, this is a setting you find within an office space, especially, though you don't see it like in the site, like when I'm in site, in where the construction or the processes have been taking place or operation, but most especially like in the office setting. Even in the construction site, you have office setting within the cabins and all that, and maybe in other industry, like in the facility process industry, and other form of workplace setting, which require a lot of activity. You might be working in a very big organization that has a lot of staff working within office space and all that. And a display screen assessor, we have a professionals called display screen equipment assessor. These are people who are specialized in assessing a kind of ergonomic setting, or workstation, to determine the risks and all that. So without wasting much time, like what we have seen here, I will just welcome us once again. On this professional discussion today, we will have on this topic, we will need to learn about the common issues or health-related issues that are peculiar with the exposure of improper display screen equipment within the office space. We'll also try to look at what is the regulations, guiding such topic, what are the legal requirements, Then we'll also look at some setup within the workplace or workstation, ergonomic setup, as the case may be, and some other aspect of it, so we can get a better understanding of the process. So when we look at our screen, we'll see a brief definition. And looking at the slide, looking at the picture, will give you a pictorial view of what the topic is all about. You know, most people just feel office, we don't know that there are risks, there are hazards that are associated with such. Okay, so by simple definition, a display screen equipment refers to electronic devices with visual display screen commonly used in the workplace, such as desktop computers. It could be your laptop, it could be tablet, and also the smartphone, which at least I can say everybody have access to. You know, sometimes you might be working, we know in some places we have people working in the office, you see them communicating through WhatsApp, maybe probably from their phone, from their desktop, laptop. It all depends on how the setting is. So when you begin to have this thing within a prolonged time, that is when you will discover that the risk behind it is on the eyesight. Okay, so going further, I would just want to refresh our memory or expose some common health issue associated with the use of display screen equipment for those of us who are new in the system or who are not familiar with it. So when we look at this issue of display screen equipment, you discover that there are some few health-related issues. Okay, now when you are exposed to such an activity for a long time, you know, not like you work today with the system, after 1 week you come again, not that kind of situation. We have a situation whereby people sit on their desks, on their workstation on a daily basis. They spend hours with work. So these are what they do on a daily basis. So in such situation, you discover that all these things, this common health-related issue will be related or will be peculiar to such kind of individual. You know, like I will use my wife as a case study here. Okay, because then she worked within an hospitality industry where she worked for over 7 years in Qatar here. And she was in charge, she was a coordinator within the housekeeping department. You know, she worked there for so many years, and her job is sitting on the system when people making booking for rooms and all those things. She's the one coordinating everything. So most of our work are done with the system. And as I speak to you, this, because of the exposure of this, she started using glasses. So if you know how implication this thing is all about. And one area within, especially the hospitality industry, is one area that I've seen a lot of regulation has not been done properly. I don't know if it's globally, but even in where we are, especially in the Middle East, because especially when you look at the security, they work like 12 hours, they stand, they don't, even if they want to sit down, they cannot sit for even up to 30 minutes or 20 minutes. So a lot of risks that are involved in such industry. I don't want to pour more light on that because we are not really discussing on that precisely. So most of the common eye issue you face when being exposed to such kind of activities, that there will be issue of eye strain. Okay, this is as a result of an extended exposure, you know, to harsh light, you know, that is emitted from the screen. So that's why I see some people, they will advise you, you try to reduce the brightness of the screen of your maybe desktop, laptop, or things like that. You know, why some people, they have a protection. There's a kind of screen, added screen they will just add to it to prevent that lightning, you know, affecting their eyesight, because it's, your eye is supposed to blink within some seconds. But when you are focused on the system, you discover that your eye the rate at which your eye would blink will be different. Your eye will have to be open for a longer time, longer period before it blinks. So all those things can result to eye strain. Okay. So, and when it happens, your eye becomes discomfort, and it also leads to dryness of the eye and fatigue of the eye. And once your eye is fatigued, it means your eye is stressed, and definitely you might have migraines, you might have a lot of things being accompanying such exposure. And also, if you don't have a good setting within your workstation and all that, when you have been exposed to display screen equipment at your workplace, this might result to back pain. It can also result to neck, shoulder pain. Even sometimes it might affect your wrist or your hand, depending on how intense is your activity and how prolonged you are used to this equipment within the work site. And also, someone will be exposed to repetitive strain injury, So, and this repetitive strain injury is like the carpal tunnel syndrome that affects the wrist, So for those of us we'll discuss topic about this issue before here in this platform. So also can lead to tendonitis, which also affect the wrists and the hands because of frequent use. So these are the basic health-related issues we can find. And when you look at it, when we talk about the neck, the back, the shoulder pain, and all these are related to is what we call musculoskeletal disorder or issues. Okay, so we need to be aware of this as a professional, because sometimes we might not be working in a setting where our workers are exposed to this, but as a professional, you need this knowledge. Okay, you need this knowledge because you don't know where you find yourself tomorrow. So when you have the opportunity, you can be able to speak. Okay, you'll be able to speak clearly and defend your profession, your knowledge. Okay, so I believe everyone can hear me. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, you can hear you.
Yes, go ahead, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, because someone is chatting me up that he cannot hear. So I'm just wondering why is that?
From him particularly, from
Yeah,
us, we can hear.
yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay. So going to the next slide, we'll see there are some tips, we need to have at the back of our fingertips, as a professional, in terms of advising and in terms of implementing in our respective sites if we have an opportunity to have workers who are exposed to the use of display screen equipment. And these tips could help to, prevent such work-related health issues that have projected in the previous slide. Now, it is advisable to have what we call a regular break. Okay, it is expected that the workers have regular break, and these are extracted from what the regulations have said, what the laws covering display screen equipment that have been put in place. Okay, so it is advisable that employers and those who advise, that is where we comes in as an health and safety practitioner. Okay, because sometimes most of our top management, they might not know much about all this, but that is where we come in as a professional to give them advice. This is how things should be done. So in such cases, it is advisable that there should be a regular break for people who work for prolonged hours. You are not even expected to be on the system for more than 1 hour without going for break. Without doing some regular breaks in between, exercise your muscles and all that. So in terms of regular break, it is advisable that you take break throughout the day to rest your eye, stretch, and increase blood circulation. It's not just only focus on your eyes, because even me too, the kind of work I do, I'm being exposed to same thing I'm speaking today. Okay, so that's why it's me sometimes when I'm working, I'll just have to walk out of my seat. I will just run the facility. Sometimes I'll just go outside of the facility, walk around and come back. Because apart from all these things we have said, if you don't exercise yourself, if you don't go out of that zone where you are working, though I did not mention that, you discover that you might be even adding excess weight, You know, you might be adding excess weight to your system. And you know where we are, the Middle East, you eat a lot of food, kubus, carbohydrate. At the end of the day, you have big tummy, you know. So it's another form of exposure to that. So regular break is very, very important. And there's what we call use of the 2020 rules. What the 2020 rules means is that you have 20 feet away every 20 minutes. Okay, 20 feet away every 20 minutes. Okay, so it's and also have like a kind of 20-minute 20-second break. You know, even when you are sitting, even if you're not leaving the seat, you can just take a break, you know, not focusing on what you are doing, try to blink your eyes, you know, try to exercise, just flex your neck like this, stretch, you know, just do all those form of, within some few seconds like that, it helps, you know, these things helps too, because when you are focused, your muscle is trained, there will be limited flow of blood, you know, within the muscles and all that. So once you are able to flex, you know, take such kind of break, you discover there will be more circulation of blood within the part of the body that needs it at that moment. So eye exercise, it is advisable that we perform exercise of the eyes, you know, such as focusing on a distance object or blinking frequently to reduce eye strain and improve the health of the eye. So like I've said earlier, you don't just focus. Sometimes you just have to distract yourself by looking at some objects around you that is far away, you know, in order to help your eye to strain, like to flex very well, in order not to be just focused on the system and cause damage to the eye. Then another point is stretching routine. Like I've said, you incorporate some kind of stretching targeting at the neck. Okay, I've said it, the wrist, the back, into the daily routine to prevent muscle imbalance and tension. Yeah, like I've said earlier, when you do a kind of, in this case, you have to move out of your workstation, just take some walk like that to make sure that your other part of the body, which is supposed to be affected, is not affected, because you need blood to circulate, not you just sitting in one position and being exposed to all the health-related issues. Now, the workstation optimization, in terms of the setup, okay, it needs to be arranged, or the workstation or workspace need to be arranged, you know, to minimize glaring vision, you know, so that it will not be glare, okay? And also it is advisable, you know, when they say ergonomically friendly setup, okay, it means you should have a kind of adjustable equipment. Even the screen need to be adjusted. The seat needs to be adjusted. It must be an adjustable type so that you will be able to adjust it to the fitting. Because if you just have a fixed one to a particular employee and that employee resign, another person comes in, maybe this person is very tall or very short or very fat, how would such kind of setup fit in with such an individual? So that is why it is advisable to have a kind of adjustable setup whereby it can fit any kind of employee that comes to take up or work with the equipment. Okay, so and it is advisable that such equipment is comfortable, because if you are using a setup that is not comfortable, you are using a seat that is not comfortable, then you are increasing the chance, you are increasing the risk. You know, so such kind of setup need to be free from clusters of cables and all that. So another point is a correct posture. Okay, it is very important that we as an employee, even as when we are also giving advice as a professional, we need to make sure that all these things are being also covered within the risk assessment setup, to make sure that these workers, we need to give them training in this regard also. They should understand how they should have a kind of correct setup, you know, and posture, you know, when they are working with the system. Okay, because if you are in a sitting position whereby you are not well positioned, all this can affect all the parts of the body which I have mentioned earlier. Can affect your hand, it can affect your shoulder, your neck, your back especially. You know, so there's a proper setup that your foot, everything, your arm, everything need to be properly rested. I will later show us a kind of pictorial view of what this is all about. So we'll get a better understanding of what I've said in this slide. Now, moving to the next one, we need to talk about understanding the health and safety of display screen equipment. Okay. Now, most commonly referred to, like, is common within the UK setting. Like, we have the Health and Safety Display Screen Equipment Regulation 1992 as amended by the Health and Safety Miscellaneous Amendment Regulation 2002. This is a regulation within the UK. And the one here, European OSHA, this Directive 90/270 DEC, display screen equipment, this within the covering the Europe, the entire Europe. So when the essence of this regulation is for us, this regulation helps to set a kind of guidelines and legal requirements for employers and also for employees. Because sometimes when we talk about regulation, the regulation is not only for the employers. Regulation is designed for both employers and employee. Okay, so if the employer has done their part by giving you a nice setup, then as an employee, you decide not to give yourself a proper posture or position, then you are the one putting yourself at risk. So it is better we understand all this, what all this is talking about, and what this regulation is all about is aimed at safeguarding the health and well-being of the workers or employee who regularly use display screen equipment as a substantial part of their job. Regularly, if you look at the word regularly, if you are not using it regularly, this regulation, all this does not affect such kind of individual. Okay, so this regulation has been there in order to reduce or address the potential health risks associated with prolonged screen use, including musculoskeletal issues, eye strain, and stress-related problems as it relates to this function or as it relates to the use of display screen equipment. Now, who do this regulation apply to? Like I've said earlier, it is applied to the employers and employee. And what did it say to the employer? Employers, all employers must have legal responsibility to ensure that their employee workstation meets the requirements outlined in the display screen equipment regulation. Okay, this includes conducting risk assessments and providing necessary training. It is very important. You conduct the risk assessment, you provide training, because in this training, this is where you are going to expose the workers to the hazard, to the risk, to the health implication. It is in this training, you have to also provide information to the workers. They need to be aware of the risk that is involved. They need to be aware how to have a proper posture. Just all what I've said so far, they need to be aware. They don't need to be a safety professional before they undergo such training. Okay, as long as they are exposed to such risk, they need such training. In fact, this kind of training is good for people who work in the office who are exposed to the use of display screen equipment. Employee, on the other hand, who spend significant portion of their work day in front of computer, laptops, and other display screen equipment, this regulation is for such kind of employee. Another form of workers are the remote worker who perform their job and tasks using display screen equipment. So some people, they work from home. Okay, they work from home. So it's not necessary that you must be in the office. Like when you look at during the time of COVID, a lot of people had their workstation at home. So if you are believing that it is only in the office you must have a good ergonomic setup, then we are getting it wrong. Even in the office, at home, we need a good workstation, that will not also predispose or expose such individual to the risks associated to such an exposure. Then the key provision of this regulation, like I've mentioned earlier briefly, what the regulation says, we must conduct a risk assessment. Employer must regularly assess and address the risks associated with display screen equipment use by their employees. Then 2, ergonomic workstation. There must be proper workstation, a kind of optimized system whereby employees will not have to stress themselves, because it will make no sense if you conduct a risk assessment and you don't have a good ergonomic workstation. You are using a seat that is not adjustable. You are using a seat that does not have a armrest, that you cannot really properly position your back, that will strain your spine and all that. So when you don't have those kind of system, that means you are not being compliant to the law or regulation. So for the employer, it is mandatory. Risk assessment, ergonomic workstation, it is mandatory. It is also mandatory that information and training must be provided by the employer to the employee. This includes correct use of display screen equipment, like I've mentioned, and how to set up their workstation, okay? Because they will set it up. They need to understand these things. Sometimes they might come, somebody might have used it maybe on other shift. They come the next day, they need to know how to set it up to their own fitting in order not to expose them to the risks involved. Another one is regular break. They need to be informed, and this need to be incorporated into the policy of the company so that people understand. People don't just feel, oh, why are you going on break? Why are you going on break? No, this is law. This is what the law says. It is mandatory. It is mandatory because you need it frequently, regularly, so that you reduce yourself to eye strain, posture-related problems. Then the fifth one is the law also, or the regulation also encourage employers, to offer eye test of employee upon request. Because for you as an individual, if you feel something is wrong with your eye, based on the job you are doing, you will know. Then you have the right to request for such at no cost. Your employer supposed to take that responsibility to make sure that you run your eye test for free. And if there's any health-related issue due to your exposure, they need to have a kind of corrective eyewear method to that, as the case may be. So now, looking at a workstation and assessment, an employer should look at a kind of holistic approach to a workstation, including the equipment, the furniture. When we mean the equipment, now we're talking about the system, whether a desktop or a laptop or whichever way. Then you look at the furniture itself. The furniture, now we're talking about the sitting, we're talking about the table, so, and also the working condition. You might not have a good setup, you have a good equipment, then in the office space, you don't have well-ventilated office space. You don't have well lighting. You see, all those things will also affect you straining your eyes, a lot of things being setting up. So it is advisable that the environment is very, very perfect for such kind of job. And also the nature of job, that you are being done should not be too strenuous and too stressful, okay? Now, if there's any special requirement of member of staff, for example, for example, those who are disabled, so we have to put those people in consideration when we are also making a design, of the workstation and all that. We should design it in a way whereby it will fit and suit such kind of individual, because they have the same rights as people who are able to do the job perfectly without any stress. So, and also where there's a risk, they should take steps to reduce them, because as much as possible, people will be exposed to this. So it is advisable that measures are taken, in order to reduce the risk, as the case may be. And also, employer must also do an assessment when a new workstation is set up. Okay, when they are bringing a new setup, it is advisable by regulation that an assessment should be done when a new user starts using the equipment. Okay, or you have a new employee, you have to carry out an assessment. Okay, so, and also when a change is made to an existing workstation, there might be some modification, there might be some changing in some other part, maybe in terms of either the desktop setting or the furniture itself. At such point, it is advisable and required by law or regulation that an assessment is done to be able to identify some certain risks, okay? Or in a situation where worker complain of pain or discomfort in the course of carrying out their respective duty. Now, on the next slide, we have, what do we have on the next slide? We could see some, I have some excerpts from the Health and Safety Executive Display Screen Equipment Workstation checklist, you know, but I cannot just, it's a lengthy stuff, so I cannot just bring it in here. So now I just wanted to see the picture that is displayed. You see some actions here which are not accepted, okay? Now, we'll start with the display screen itself. Are the characters clear or readable? Like you see this one now, you see that it's very clear, but this one, it's somehow, such kind of character on a screen can stress your eyes, okay? So all these things are things we should be conversant with, okay? And also, is the screen free from glare and reflection? Sometimes there might be reflection from the outside, maybe as in the office, maybe from the window or something like that, or light, there might be a kind of reflection. So those things, when they reflect, it comes back to your eyes as well. You know, so all these things affect, they put stress on the eye. And also, does the screen swivel or tilt? You know, sometimes the desktop is either is moving like this or is, you know, it needs to be firm. When you adjust it to a certain level, it needs to be firm. So all those things need to be put into consideration. And also focus on the keyboard. You know, there's always a question within the checklist that will say, is it possible to find a comfortable keyboard position? It is very mandatory that the keyboard position should be well stationed. Like if you see this one that is sticked here, you see the position, the guy's here, his hand is forming about 90 degrees. You know, he's rested on the arm. You see, this is a bad practice because his arm is not rested, his hand is stretched. This one, you see his back, there's a space. There's a space between his back and the and where he's supposed to rest on the chair. Okay, so this is not a good practice. Even this one also is not a good practice because all this kind of activity will affect, this one will affect the hand, both here will affect the spine. Okay, so now we have to look at the mouse and the trackball. Is this device position close to the users? You don't need to have to stretch yourself at this level. Okay, look at how he's stretching his arm. At this level, he will stress his muscles and he can get stressed and get tired, you know, when you work for a long period of time. This is a kind of perfect one. You see that the arm is resting, at least it's forming a kind of 90 degree, and you see it doesn't have to stretch it that far. Okay, so this is a perfect setting when it comes to the mouse, the trackball, etc. Then for the furniture setting, you can see this is a perfect setting here. Okay, there's no clusters on the tables as compared to this one. You see a lot of activity, a lot of document and all that. It is not a safe environment for such person to work because he will not have a perfect setup. Now, is the chair adjusted correctly? Now, just like what we find in this place, when you look at it, when you find the position of these two people, you find out that these two positions, you discover that it is not well adjusted. Okay, this is a perfect adjustment because the back is well rested. You look at the arm, it's forming a correct angle, and even with the keyboard, you don't need to raise your hand up, you don't need to stretch it too far, you don't need to stretch it downward because you are using the keyboard. So you need to be balanced in order for you to be stress-free. And also, there are some software that are being used, you know, within the desktop setting, within the computer setting that can also affect your or stress your eyes also. So all those things should be put into consideration. Now, looking at the correct setting and posture, you know, which is expected. This is a well ergonomic structured setting, okay? And you should have between 20-inch to 28 distance between your eyes to the screen, okay? You should be able to maintain that distance because if it's too close, this will strain your eye and it will affect, okay? And also the top monitor at they said the top monitor at cycle level or slightly below rather. Okay, so it need to be well positioned, just as it depicts in the picture. Now they said your upper back straight with shoulder, relaxed at sides. You know, you don't need to, you need to have a relaxed shoulder. Everything need to be relaxed. You don't need to stress. Maybe you bend in one position or stretch yourself in any way. So you should have a kind of balance, a drop shoulder that is well relaxed, okay, not on a stressful level. And also the backrest of the chair support must be a little bit curved in the lower part of the back to give you a perfect sitting as depicted here. Also, they said the hip at the back of the chair as possible, as in hip as far back. Okay, this is what they are trying to say here. At least the picture can explain itself even without reading what is on the screen. And also the seat must be adjustable. Like I've said earlier, it must be adjustable, because if you find somebody who is shorter or taller, how can it fit into this system? So you need to either take it up or bring it down. Now, for the foot is very important also. Okay, there must be a footrest, because if you use system and you work for hours, you see, because at the point I was experiencing that, so I just have to find a footrest where I'll just put my foot, you know. So sometimes it should be a kind of flat surface that on the floor there that can make your foot to rest properly, because if it's not properly rest, you have problem of blood circulation as well. Okay, so because the risk is very high for blood to return back to the entire part of the body will be a problem. So the lower leg at angle 9 must be at angle 90, okay, and not more than 110 degree angle to the thigh, you know, which is very, very important. Not that you just stretch your leg like this or you bend your leg to the back. You just have to form such kind of angle, okay, to have a kind of proper posture, you know, within the setting. An arm must relax at the side of the upper arm and lower arm, forming an angle of 90 degrees, okay? Wrist straight with finger relaxed, just as it is depicted. If you see a arm is forming angle 90 from this side, and it's straight, the hand is straight to the keyboard, okay? So it is very, very important and essential that we have this image in our mind to better understand what this is all about. Then lastly, in conclusion, I will say prioritizing display screen equipment safety is very, very important by following such regulation and guidelines that are available to us, including ergonomic setup, regular break, management of health and safety issues, and deploying all this, we can promote a healthier and more productive work environment, as we have always said in all our discussion and topic. I will say thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you for listening. I think the floor should be open for discussion, to share our experience, to ask questions, you know, and also share our experience, share our knowledge. Thank you very much.
All
Yes,
right,
Mr.
thank you very much, Mr. Stephen. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. It was detailed and well self-explanatory. So thank you very much for making our time to prepare this presentation today. So without wasting much time, we'll leave the floor open for individual contributions so that everyone will share their experience and share their knowledge on the topic. And if you have any question also to ask on the topic or other related topics, you can go ahead and ask. So the floor is open for us.
Yes, Mr. James, Mr. David, you guys are welcome to share your knowledge and idea. I could see one or two people also I can see Mr. Olayinka Omojaide, if I'm pronouncing right. I think I'm seeing this name for the first time, though I might be stand to be corrected. Okay, Mr. David, you have the floor. You can make your contribution or ask your question.
Good evening, all.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, all.
Yeah, we can hear you. Good evening.
Yeah, well, I have a contribution, and also I can experience my workplace.
Okay.
Because the company where I work, I realized that most of the shares used in the office were actually bought fairly used. They were not new shares. A majority of these shares don't have the resources for adjustment. They are not adjustable. And some of them don't even have the rotating tires for easy movement. So for you to move from one point to the other, you actually have to stand up and manually shift the share to move out from your working position. So I noticed this was as a result of the company trying to cut costs of acquiring new shares. So they brought basically all they needed from fairly used sellers. So these things were affecting the flow of work. When you sit, you cannot work for a long time. So recently I noticed I was having a serious inconsistent lower back pain. And this is as a result of prolonged hours using a non-ergonomical chair to carry out work in the office. So this topic has shed more light and enlightened us on the importance of using ergonomical, safe equipment and facilities to work in the office. So this is like an eye-opener for me to raise the awareness by conducting an office inspection and then relating it to the top management so that they can change all the seats which are not ergonomically safe to use in the office. So it's really a good topic, and it's related to everyone, not only those that work in the office. Even the ones we have in our homes, sometimes they are not ergonomically safe for us to use as well. Absolutely. So thank you for bringing up this topic. It's a good one, and it will keep us enlightened on the next step to take to ensure that these issues are resolved in our workplace. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing your life experience with us. This is the beauty of this discussion. Along the line, also, I will also give my own life, well, I say real life experience regarding this in my workplace. So, Mr. Omojade, you can make your contribution.
Yes, thank you very much for bringing up this topic, and it's really a good one. I've really learned a lot. I just wanted to give a little additional contribution to what has been said, and I am more of interested in the remote aspect of this workstation DSE. I believe strongly that because of the fact that most people that work remotely, like somebody raised an issue of during the COVID-19 era and the rest. What happened then was a situation in which people, because they are not in the office environment, they don't conform to the norms of normal safety because they're not in the workplace. They would not want to comply with working safely or using the right equipment to work, using an ergonomically friendly workstation. So I believe strongly that risk factor as regards working remotely is the fact that you are not in an environment which is an office environment. So you tend to work anyhow. So, and people are not compliant to working ergonomically, working safe. So one of the risk factor of this DSE is working remotely, not working in the office environment where maybe the safety, for most people, they feel that when the safety officer is around, then they have to work safely. But when the safety is not around, they work anyhow. So one of the risk factors of using this DSE is working in remote locations. It doesn't really help us to work safely economically. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yes, thank you for your input. Yes, now I will just try to add something to what you have said, because now you try to focus on those working remotely, especially those who are working at home, especially during the COVID-19 in some industry. Even if you go to the Western world today, even in the UK, you see some jobs that, like, especially safety jobs, some maybe remote kind of nature of work. Maybe once in a month you go to the office. Even in some company, those people who work in the customer care, they don't work in the office. They don't work in any site. They work from home. So now you see what is very important is, because this part of the aspect I want to talk about, it is not well championed, especially in Africa, Asia, and probably Middle East, because of lack of implementation. Okay, not in some countries they implement, okay, but do they watch in terms of a kind of regular inspection to ensure that people are in compliance? You see, like in the US, in the UK, see, we know how, yes, some companies still fail compliance, but you see majority of companies still comply. And importantly, for the organization and for we as an health and safety practitioner or professional, and also an advisor to an organization, you see, the training and information is very important. I will tell you, these people are not working in the office or probably site, so they want to ignore it. No, they need the information. They need that education through training to understand the health risk. If you have eye problem, before I started, maybe you have not joined, I said the effects of my wife, working in hospitality industry for almost 7 years using the system. I know how exposed she was, and I know today she's using glasses. Her father died for almost 90-something years, did not use glasses. So when you begin to look at it, these are the risk factors. These are things, these are scenarios we need to explain to the employees. We need to explain to them. It is all about them. The company is to provide a conducive environment for them, right? So if your situation warrant that, okay, you work at home, you work remotely, then they need to understand, because see, information, education is power. Once you have it, you know it. Do you understand? Most of us who are professional here, because we know our job, we know how we can influence things in our site, even if we're having a back and forth things with management and all that. So like I will always say, it is very important, okay, for whatever I've displayed here today, anybody that needs the copy, I can also share. This is what we can always use to convince management. Like I think David said, I'll fall back to my organization. When I joined them earlier, the setup, what they brought, everything was rubbish. Even the seat was new seat, but inferior quality. Maybe each seat they bought it 50 riyal, I don't know. That doesn't have armrest and all those things. Immediately, I raised an alarm, but they said, what is wrong with this young man and all that and all that. I just told them one thing. I said, in 3 months' time, if you are to buy original seats of maybe 150 riyal, for example, and you are buying this one for 50 riyal, this is common logic. And this is what we can put in our argument. We can make it as a presentation. We can make it as a report. If the management will not want to give us room for us to make the presentation, we can make it like a report and send to them. Because many of them are novice, they don't have the knowledge. It is better you send to them. When it begins to happen, they will begin to see what you have said. Then they will understand this is a very brilliant guy. Okay, I told them the same thing. I told them you end up replacing this office seats 3 times within a year if you keep buying the same quality. And it happens. This seat, they got broken. For me, from the first day, I did not use, because I know the health implication. I took it elsewhere. I went to one office within the facility and got a proper seat that I was using. Okay, so they had to buy another seat and end up spending more than what they would have spent. And you know, we have a guy who is working in help desk because that is the one that always sit more. Like for me, I already had a comfortable seat and I goes out to work, I go to side, do some little inspection, I come back. I know how to flex myself. But for him, he doesn't know all those things. At the end of the day, this guy went to the hospital. I could remember he had about 3 days sick leave as a result of waist pain and back pain. We is at loss, the company. So I fall back to that to make reflection of what I have sent to them initially. So they began to see relevance. You know, sometimes some organizations, they want to learn by mistakes, but it is important as a professional to make your voice heard in as much as you cannot force them. You are not a police, okay? So just make your voice heard so that when it starts coming, they will understand the level of your expertise. So any other person? We are free to make a contribution.
Okay, thank you guys for those contributions. I listened to David's contribution and it was a very interesting one that you are able to recognize what could be the risk associated with those seats and those non-ergonomically equipment in the workplace. So I think that is one of the reasons why we are having these discussions on weekly basis. So as time goes on, we'll be treating different topics, and believe you me, we'll learn from each other. So I've learned from your experience also, and I will be looking out for that as well, maybe in my other engagements. So, and there's one aspect that we don't normally look into, that is the risk assessment, DSE risk assessment. In as much as it's supposed to be done by a specialist, ergonomist, but as health and safety professionals who have the knowledge or the information about the risk associated with use of display screen equipment, we are supposed to conduct risk assessments, encourage the engineers or the people in charge of the offices to conduct risk assessment, even though it's not professional as it's supposed to be, as it's supposed to be done by an ergonomist. But we have format, we have samples online that we can download and know exactly what we are supposed to check, know exactly what is the height of the screen, what height should a chair be, what type of the angle that the keyboard should be positioned. So these are what we are supposed to look out for and conduct display screen equipment risk assessment. You might not go ahead doing it for all the computers in your workplace, but when you conduct this training and educate the workers or educate the office staffs, then you expect them to replicate whatever you have taught them in the practical in their work stations. So this is how we can implement whatever we have learned today. That is my own contribution. Thank you very much.
Mr. Olayinka, I can see Mr. Olayinka here. Please, can you give us your comments? Even if you don't have any contribution or what to say, try to make a comment regarding this discussion. I know I invited you for the first time, but I want you to make 1 or 2 comments regarding this session.
Good evening, everyone.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me to the Zoom meeting. Though I joined late because I was trying to connect and it was giving me kind of little issues, but due to my own contribution and what I met, at least I needed to talk about my own experience based on the office structures. And from what you've said, you've talked about the issue of lights raising through the windows. And you know, majority of site offices, they are not well structured. There are all these transparent windows, which it's very easy for light to penetrate right from outside, most especially during the summer timing. And at the same time, the ergonomic sector of the structure of table, whereby you have a lot of, most especially the engineers, when they print out all these documents, you know, they scatters all their tables. Even for some of them to even make use of their mouse will be very difficult. They will be struggling. So there was a time I worked in a project whereby I needed to consult our project manager to discuss with him that he should allow me to give some trainings to the engineers. Then he was like, why? Then I explained some things to him. And due to our project manager then is a Scottish, and it's really understand the risks associated to all these practice. Then give me a chance. Then I try to give them some kind of training. And after then, there was a lot of improvement and changes there. Even some of them, they later talked to me that, wow, we don't even pay attention to all these things. Our mind is all about our job, stress, this and that the consultant is giving us this, a lot of things, and everything was being in control. So thank you so much. I really, so with the few lectures I even had from here, and I flash it back to what has been happening on site, and I could relate some things. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you also for making one or two comments or contribution to this discussion. And
Steve, you are muted.
Sorry. Yeah.
Your mic is muted.
Okay, sorry. Yeah,
Okay.
I say thank you for your contribution. Thank you for what you have said so far. I love that so much, and I can see that you could be able to relate it, because what we do here on a weekly basis every Thursday by 6 p.m. is to connect as a professional to give discussion. We are not here to say this person knows more than this. We are sharing knowledge. Okay, where you don't understand, you can ask questions. Where you bring in life experience, you know, so that we can share it among ourselves and see where we can help ourselves. In between, sometimes some of us, some members, they will just ask, oh, please, can I have the presentation slide? If you also need a certificate for this session, you can also communicate with me. I will speak to Mr. Johnson. They will prepare a certificate if you want to use it for your CPD and all that. So it's a good platform where we discuss, where we refresh our memory, we recall so many things, and this keeps helping us as a professional. I will encourage you to keep attending to increase the number of this professional discussion. Thank you very much for accepting this invitation today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We try to be joining every Thursday.
Okay, I'll be sending you the link as usual. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Welcome. So, Mr. Johnson, you can wrap up.
All right, it was a great discussion this evening. I appreciate all that joined. I appreciate all the contributions, and I've learned a lot, and I'm sure you learned also. So we have a YouTube channel. The name is Safeoclock. That is where we'll keep our recorded videos so that you can watch it later whenever you want, in case you missed any session or you need to refresh on what we've discussed. You can take it from our YouTube channel, Safeoclock. Okay, so
you said the YouTube channel is what?
Safeoclock. I will type it.
Okay.
Yeah, that is same name for the Facebook page also. So
you can take notes for the person that needs the certificate.
Yeah, anybody that needs the certificate, just send
the chat box.
Okay, somebody indicated already.
Yes, yes.
So I'll just give me can you type your phone number? I will
Mr.
type.
Mojade, just send me your phone number so we can communicate with you.
I'll type my phone number. You just chat me and and remind me so that I will not forget. Okay, my phone number is 7470.
The accent is
3458886. Okay, so no problem. I will chat you up. You can also chat me. Okay, your own is for Nigeria. Then for my own, you can just add +974. All right, guys. Thank you for joining. Next week we'll meet again for another interesting topic. But we'll share the flyer ahead so that if you want to prepare any presentation, you can prepare also and share with us on that day. All right, guys. See you next week, Thursday.
All right, see you. Thanks.
All right.
Have a nice evening.
Good night.
yeah, it's a
All right, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.